This podcast is proud to be part of the TalkSport Fan Network. TalkSport. Powered by fans.
Danilo's free. He goes to Gibbs wide. Edge of the box. Foley. Yes! Great goal! What a hit from Arena! Gibbs wide. They've only gone and done it again. Forest back in the lead. Through Morgan Gibbs White. Oh, and he scores! And the City ground goes ballistic.
Hello and welcome back to the fan preview edition of Red Side of the Trent. Here to join me on the Brighton preview is Joe Sayers from Albion Obsessed. Joe, how are you first of all?
Hello, mate. Yeah, all good. I think last time I spoke to you, I had hair. This is what watching Brighton and Albion does to you. You lose your hair.
in Europe?
Yeah. It was stressful. Stressful times, mate. We're loving life. Yeah, all good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, really, really well. Obviously, contrasting weekends for both of our football clubs. We went away to Anfield and got a historic win for the first time in 55 years, and you lot got held 0-0 at home to Ipswich Town. Let's just recap the last game at the weekend. Obviously, I seen you look like you pummeled them by the stats. I mean, didn't really watch too much of the highlights, to be honest, of a 0-0 as you can expect. But was you left frustrated going away from the Amex?
Yeah, you say pummeled them on the stats. We didn't pummel them on the stats that mattered, which is obviously putting the ball in the back of the net, 26 shots, God knows how much possession. It had sort of marks of Graham Potter when he was sort of finding his feet at Brighton. We could have a lot of possession, we could create a lot of chances, but we couldn't score. So I hope that's not a trend of things to come. I mean, we've been incredibly spoiled with unbelievable football at Brighton, and that's continuing with Fabian Hürzeler. The brand of football he wants to play is clear. I think he's put it across to the players quite well. It's just a really unfortunate thing where their goalkeeper turns up and has a man of the match performance. And it's frustrating because he was the goalkeeper that let in a horror own goal for Burnley last season against us. And of course, he's going to turn up to the Amex and have a point to prove. I expected it. I expected Ipswich to be strong, resolute. They have been. I know they've obviously lost heavily to Man City, but you know who doesn't. But I think they've looked okay. They've looked quite defensively strong in the game against Fulham. Obviously, they drew the game, and so I expected a tough test, and that's what we got. You can't take these games for granted at all. Even if you are Brighton, you've had a really good, successful run. You can't just expect to turn up and beat Ipswich. We know that. We've been in that position. We've been in the team that everyone expects to beat, and we know that's not the case. We didn't take our chances, and we lived to pay the price.
I mean, I remember coming to you guys' first game of our first time back in the Premier League after 23 years, and we parked 11 men behind the ball and just went, "Come on, then," because we was in such a horror state of form. We just needed to get a point somewhere, and we managed to scrape one in that one. But does that result kind of put a little dampener on your starts of the season? Because obviously you've won 2, drew 2, but obviously beat Man United at home, beat Everton away. Drew at Arsenal, which is obviously always going to be tough despite them going down to 10 men from a stupid red card from Declan Rice. But yeah, do you feel like you should have more points?
I think on reflection, obviously, we feel it's 2 points dropped. And I think that mentality has to sort of radiate through the football club. We know where we want to be. We know who we want to be. But I think at the start of the season, if you gave me those 4 games and said you're going to have 8 points at the end of them, no matter what order it comes in, I probably would have been quite happy with that anyway. I probably would have expected us to beat Everton, expected us to beat Ipswich, and maybe get a draw against Man United and Arsenal. But we beat Manchester United. So I think your expectations have to level out in terms of the greater picture. Everyone looks at, the next game is a must win. But if you look back at those 4 games, we've done well to get 8 points and we're sat 6th in the table. I know it's only after 4 games, but we're setting a momentum, and it was annoying that the international break came when it did. I think that sort of stopped us in our tracks a little bit. Joao Pedro picked up a knock on international duty with Brazil, and we all know how important he is to the way we want to play football. So, unfortunate timing, but on reflection, 8 points from the first 4 games is really good.
It sounds so much familiar and similar in our camp, because obviously 2 away games we've won, and then the 2 games at home we've probably thought, well, we should have probably beaten Bournemouth albeit we got a lucky goal scored against us. Wolves have scored an absolute worldie in it, and then we've gone away to Anfield and gone, oh God, the start of the season is going to come up to a crumbling end because we're not expecting anything there, and we go and shock the Premier League and shock the Scousers, which has been nice. Let's talk about your new manager. Obviously, I was going to talk about transfers first, but I feel like he start at the helm would be better.
Yeah.
Fabian Hürzeler's a year younger than me, which is mental, but I absolutely love it because it's like just football manager vibes. And that will go into your transfer kind of window when we talk about under kids and all that sort of thing. If for anyone that's not watched anything on St. Pauli or watched Brighton at all this season, I was actually really hoping to watch you guys against Man United, but got stuck in traffic going to the Southampton game, so I couldn't catch you. How would you describe his style of football?
I would say it's everyone expected him to come in because he was similar to Roberto De Zerbi, and I don't think that's the case at all. The differences that we see are that, and it sounds ridiculous to say, but as soon as we get the ball, we want to get it up the pitch, other end of the pitch, and score. Whereas De Zerbi was very much possession based, wait for your moment, invite the press, and then choose your moment to attack. Hürzeler is just football with intensity. He said that in his first press conference, and that's what we've seen. We're high pressing. We've got our striker defending from the front, even if the other team are on the edge of their own box. So yeah, it's highly intense football. The players have had to work hard over pre-season for sure. A lot of them have been quoted to say that it's one of the hardest pre-seasons and some of the hardest training sessions they've had. But I think that's a really good thing. I like the fact that we're giving the players a new challenge after what we had under Roberto De Zerbi, which was absolutely fantastic. And we're so thankful for the job that he did at our club. But we really think that Hürzeler could really impress and shock a few people. And I think he's done that. Obviously, he's won Manager of the Month for August. Maybe that curse followed through into our 0-0 draw with Ipswich, but hey ho, what can you do? But I think he's come in and he's made people sort of rethink the fact that the first thing people mention is his age. And obviously, yeah, it's a fascinating stat. It's crazy that a 31-year-old's got a managerial job in the Premier League, but he's a very good coach, and he's not a young coach, and we're seeing that.
I mean, it's similar to like when you get 18, 17-year-olds break through into men's football anyway. Like if you're good enough, what does age matter really? Like if he's got the ideas and he's getting them across and you're getting results, he could be 20 years old for all you care, as long as it's happening. It's obviously just that the old grand age of like, does it have respect to the dressing room and everything else? Like James Milner's like old enough to be like his uncle or something, isn't he? Like, do you know what I mean? But,
yeah, luckily the older players, Dunkey, James Milner, have all come out and said how good he is. I've met Fabian Hürzeler once for a very brief moment, and I could tell he's that kind of guy that just does get the aura of the room and gets people's attention. So yeah, he's 31 years old, but people respect him. People listen to him. He's got great ideas, and you know, Tony Bloom and Paul Barber would not have made that appointment if they had any sort of worries about that age. And it's a calculated risk. Everyone says how much of a risk it is, but we track people for a long time. And it wouldn't have been a last-minute decision to get Fabian Hürzeler. He came to the Amex last season to do like a week's training with the squad and to have a look at Roberto De Zerbi. And then he got the job. So, I mean, coincidence? I think not. He's been on our radar for maybe even before we signed Roberto De Zerbi.
Well, I think Tony Bloom's come out and said on multiple sport networks that they're always planning at Brighton. They're always like 5 steps ahead, which is, it's just good business. Like, it's just good ownership. It's really like, it's not refreshing because like that's how a business should be ran. It's how football clubs should be ran. And I think it's outside the box thinking personally. Like, no one would have ever said, "Oh, Brighton are going to go for this young kid at St. Pauli who got them promoted back into the Bundesliga with not like maybe a bit of an unusual style of football, really." I watched a video that James Alcott put out where you got Jackson Irvine like playing as a central attacking midfielder with the other one, and like, I don't know, like central, like left wingers coming in as a central midfielders and just all sorts of nonsense. But I love it. It's great. Like, why not? Let's talk about your transfer window. Lots of ins and lots of outs. So you're finally spending the Moises Caicedo money, I see, which is fantastic. Talk us kind of through it, Joe, because like, I mean, Jorginho Rutter, Yakuba Minter, Mats Wafer, Brian Gruder, if that's how you say Brian in German or wherever he's from. I think he's Albanian, isn't he? Ferdy Kadioglu, Matt O'Reilly obviously had a bad injury. It's been a busy one, and then obviously outgoings. I mean, we'll talk about the ins first, though.
Yeah, the ins. Let's start with Matt O'Reilly. Absolutely gutted 6 minutes into his debut. Horror tackle by the Crawley captain, which should have been a red card, but that is what it is. And that's just how football goes sometimes. Hopefully he'll be back the turn of the year, possibly. I don't know how long he's going to be out. They said 2 to 3 months, but with Brighton that means 6. But we've got a new medical team. So
did he break his ankle? Or was it
I can't remember. He done something to his ankle.
That's similar to Danilo breaking his ankle first like 15 minutes of the season. Just on so unlucky.
It's so gutting when that happens. Obviously, we were so excited when he came in. There were so many names linked to us, and I was thinking, we'll get 2 or 3. We got every single one. every single one that we had a legitimate link to came into our football club, and that is unheard of at Brighton. We do our business sort of in the background. We bring in people that no one's ever heard of, and they turn into Moises Caicedo or Alexis McAllister and people like that. But I think we've had to go out into this window and make a statement and spend a little bit of money and reinvest that money that everybody knows that we've got. I think that was a challenge for our board because people knew how much money Brighton had. So negotiations probably haven't been easy, but we've pulled them off. Brian Guja, who's come in, who we're really excited about, he was being linked to Bayern Munich. Ferdy Kadioglu was previously linked to Arsenal and Manchester United. So we are getting some decent caliber of player in. And they clearly want to come to Brighton. A lot of them have referenced the journey that this club's been on and wanted to be a part of that. And yeah, as you say, the Moises Caicedo money is great. The Cucurella money, the Graham Potter money, the Robert Sanchez money, how long the Ben White money. We've done incredibly well to make that money, put ourselves in one of the healthiest positions ever. We recorded a record profit last season. And people are looking at Brighton now and saying, how are they spending so much money? I'll tell you how we're spending so much money. Chelsea Football Club and Todd Bowley. That is how.
I've seen loads of stuff like when you were signing loads of players on like Twitter and stuff, and I'm going, did you not know they sold like nearly 200 million pounds worth of player to Chelsea? Like, are you like, I don't know,
the crazy thing is that we recorded that record profit for a Premier League club. It was 120 odd million pounds profit. That didn't include the Moises Caicedo money. So if you add that to it, we've spent almost that budget, but there's still a little bit left over. So we're still in the green. how has that happened? I don't know.
Tony Bloom.
Yeah,
Tony Bloom.
exactly. So yeah, we're loving life. We're sitting rosy in the Premier League. We're hoping to stay there. I mean, how pessimistic does that sound of me? That we're just hoping to stay up. 7 years into the Premier League, obviously we know it's not a sure thing that you spend some money and things continue to go well. We know that things could go badly and we could find ourselves in a relegation scrap. Anyone could. So we're enjoying it. We're just taking it season on season, and yeah, enjoying it while it lasts.
The one transfer that has annoyed me, Joe, is Valentin Barco, because I was expecting him to play left back because Stupinian was injured, and then Sevilla, the cheeky gits, put out on Twitter that FPL players are going to have to take him all out. And I watched him for Boca Juniors, and I thought, yes, he is a Brighton fullback or left winger.
Yeah.
And Stupinian injured, he'll play. And then they signed Kadioglu from Fenerbahce, and I went, oh, that's him not playing anymore.
Yeah, I was gutted, to be honest. Valentin had an unbelievable preseason. His ability is so clear for everyone to see. His set piece deliveries are unbelievable. He can take people on. He can defend. He's tenacious. He's everything you want in a fullback. So yeah, a little bit gutted to see him go to Sevilla. And not stay with us. I was hoping maybe he would stay with us and maybe Ferdi Kadioglu would play on the right-hand side of the defence. But it seems like the plan is to have Ferdi Kadioglu as a left-sided player, which I really don't know what that means for Pervis Stupinian. I'm really confused about that, but we'll see how that plays out. Maybe Ferdi Kadioglu will move to the right-hand side, but then we've got Jack Hinchelwood as well. So, yeah, lots of headaches for Fabian Hürzeler. I'm so glad I'm not Fabian Hürzeler because we've got a lot of players.
It's a similar situation with Nuno as well, thankfully. Who I take it out of the new boys so far, Yakuba Minta's been the one that's kind of caught the eye most of all.
Yeah, it's funny with Yakuba Minta. There's a lot of hype around him, and he is good. He's got ability, and he's a counter pressing demon. One of our co-hosts on the Albion Obsessed podcast labels him as the counter pressing demon, which he is. He doesn't stop from minute 1 to minute 90, which is what you want in a player. You want them to give 100% every single time, even if it doesn't look like they're giving 100%. If you know what I mean, like you just want to see that effort. We saw that effort against Ipswich. He just looked a little bit scared to take people on, which was really confusing because he knows he's got the pace. He knows he's got the ability to go past people. But that translated to the other wing as well. Karim Matoma looked a little bit scared to go past people. I think that both of them are big confidence players. If they have a good first 20, 25 minutes and know they've got the beating of their fullback, they'll have a great game. But as soon as things don't quite go their way, they sort of rely on the people around them to sort of pull them out of a dark spot. So, yeah, I mean, Minta's been great. We haven't seen much of the other new guys. Rutter played a big part on Saturday as well. But very small sample sizes at the moment. So I couldn't sort of say who's been the best. But I think if I had to choose someone, it would be Yakuba Minta.
Yeah. Just going into your departures, someone I'm glad I won't be seeing on Sunday at the Amex. Fantastic players, Pascal Gross. Obviously leaving, going to Dortmund. How disappointed was it for him to depart the club?
I think disappointing in the way that he left. The not necessarily that, you know, he's gone to Dortmund, he's gone to his boyhood club, and we couldn't begrudge him of that at all. But not knowing when his last kick for our football club would be was a little bit of a sort of sour patch on what's been an unbelievable legacy for Pascal Gross. He said in an open letter to the fans that he hopes to come back soon and give us a proper goodbye. Which would be lovely because, you know, he has been Mr. Brighton of Albion for the last 7 years. He was our first ever Premier League signing for £3.5 million. And he's paid that 10 times over, 100 times over. He's been so good for us and so important. Even when Graham Potter came in, it looked as though Pascal Gross was sort of out of the picture. he bided his time. He stayed professional, and he became one of Graham Potter's most important players. And I think he's been that for every manager he's played under for Brighton. So, we've got to see him go. Dortmund have got one of the best players I've ever seen play this game. If people haven't watched Pascal Gross and just look at him for what his FIFA card says about his pace, then you are so wrong, because Pascal Gross is one of the best footballers I've ever seen grace a football pitch.
Yeah, I really like him. I think he's really underrated. But something that I was not expecting to see was seeing highlights of Napoli, who I quite fond of in Italy. The Scotland central midfield duo of Billy Gilmore and Scott McTominay. Why the heck has Billy Gilmore left? Because I actually just thought he was quite a big player for you guys.
I think it's a mixture of things. I think maybe he doesn't fit the mold for a Hürzeler centre midfielder. We know that he's quite small, but he is physical. So, and he showed that against Man United. He was easily our best player against Man United a few weeks ago. And we thought maybe that was the chance for Billy Gilmore to say, keep me, Fabian. I am a good enough player for you. However, Napoli, Champions League football, maybe he wanted to move. And if he wanted to move, we are a club that won't stand in someone's way if they want to leave the football club. Gutted not to keep him, but I think we've got enough to sort of bridge the gap. We've got Diego Gomez coming in from Inter Miami in January, which will be a good addition. Yes, and Yari stepped up to the plate. Carlos Baliba has been unreal. We've got enough to bridge the gap. And then obviously Matt O'Reilly got injured, but that's just the way football goes.
Yeah, unfortunately. Obviously, it's only been 4 games under Fabian Hürzeler, as we all know. What would you say your main strengths are so far in the early stages of this season that you've seen?
I think it's just taking our chances when they come. And I know that's a bit silly for me to say when we just come off of a 0-0 draw against Ipswich, but we're scoring a lot of goals. Pre-season was full of them. And we started the season in the same vein, scoring 3 at Everton, a couple against United and lots against Crawley, but you expect us to put a few past Crawley anyway. We're quick. We counter well. We defend well. We win the ball back very quickly when we lose it. But I don't think we've really played, except for Arsenal, a team that would dominate the possession. And that game sort of flipped when Declan Rice got sent off, and that was lucky for us. But we still like to control the game. We still like to play with the ball at our feet. But we move it forward a lot quicker than what we did with Roberto De Zerbi.
What about weaknesses then, obviously, because a new manager, there's going to be some kind of chink in the armour, you'd like to think, because players are still getting used to a new system. And obviously there must be something drawing 2 games, but against Arsenal, who had 10 men, and Ipswich, weirdly, there must have been something that they did right to get those results.
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between how quickly we reorganize after an attacking phase and go back into a defensive shape. And a lot of teams have had joy on the counter against us. If you watch the Man United game, they had so many counter attacks that, if that had been Man City or Liverpool or whoever else, they probably would have beaten us 8-0. But it's just United are terrible, so they didn't punish us. So yeah, us on the counter attack scares me a little bit. We sort of lose our shape a little bit, and people sort of wait for someone else to get them out of trouble rather than mopping it up themselves. I think Jan-Paul Van Heck has been doing that job for a lot of people and has been so good for us. Dunkey's looking a bit suspect at the moment, which isn't what we want to see from our captain. Doesn't want to go up for the aerial duels. So I think if you can catch Jan-Paul Van Heck sort of higher up the pitch and then have an aerial challenge with Dunkey, you'll probably get some success there.
I mean, it's strange because, like, obviously Liverpool at the weekend weren't expecting too much from Forest in terms of like coming out and getting at them. But we're I think for XG on the counter attack, we're the top 10 in Europe. So like that kind of thing you saying there kind of like makes me rub my hands a little bit. But obviously you've got to
Rest in
execute
peace,
it.
Brighton.
You've got to execute it and execute it well, obviously. So like it's one thing saying it, it's another thing doing it. Obviously in football, anything can happen, and it'll be an almighty tough game for us and yourselves, I think, because we've looked a lot more stronger. Would you argue Joao Pedro has taken over the mantle as your talisman this season? Seeming Evan Ferguson can't seem to keep himself fit.
No, there's no argument at all. Yeah, Joao Pedro is the man. Already touched on how important he's been for us and how much of a loss he was at the weekend. As soon as I saw him out of the team, I really thought that we weren't going to score, and that came true. So yeah, he's been crazy good for us. Scored a lot of goals in Europe for us last season, and it is already probably going down a Brighton legend, scoring our first ever goal in the Europa League, and being the top scorer in the Europa League group stages as well. I think he scored 19 goals last season in all competitions. It's been a long time since a Brighton player has hit those sort of numbers. I think you're probably looking as far back as Glenn Murray in the Championship for those sorts of numbers. And hopefully he can stay fit and come back and have a good string of games. I probably expect him to hit over 20 goals this season if he can stay fit. And whether we keep him or not next summer is another thing. But yeah, we'll enjoy him whilst he's here.
Super annoyed because I put him in my FPL team and then I just seen yellow and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very annoying. What's your thoughts, obviously, on Forest? I know it's probably been limited watching, but highlights and everything else can tell you a short story, I guess, at least.
Yeah, I mean, just the results alone, you've had a couple of really good results. Obviously, a massive result at the weekend against Liverpool, taking your chance when it arose, sort of limiting them to not many chances when you really think about it. 14 shots and I think 6 on target Liverpool had. So you are sort of limiting people from having sort of gilt-edged chances. So I think that worries me a little bit that you'll be so resolute that we can't create like we like to, and we can't be as free as we like to. And I think you've got some decent players going forward, as you say, on the counter attack. One of the best in terms of XG in Europe. So yeah, that worries me. That worries me a lot. 8 points from the first 4 games. I'm happy with that as a Brighton fan. And we've had great success and we spent a lot of money, so you would expect us to have a good season. If you look at Forest last season, you maybe don't expect them to have such a good season, but you've started really well. So we can't underestimate what Forest could do to us on Sunday.
I mean, I'm ecstatic, and Sky have obviously seen something in us, being the Sky Super Sunday game, 6th v 7th. It's massive.
Yeah, it's huge for Europe.
Going for Europe, European chasing
Massive.
Forest of Brighton.
Who would have thought it, eh? 7 years ago in the Championship.
I know when Joao scored against us with Oscar Garcia as manager for Brighton.
Oh,
I do
mate,
remember
that was a fantastic day. It really was.
What players do you kind of look at Forest and go, they worry me a little?
I couldn't really pinpoint anyone, to be honest. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I've watched a lot of Forest and I know much about your players. Obviously, Hudson-Odoi scoring at the weekend is going to give him a lot of confidence that he could be the difference on Sunday as well. So, and he didn't turn into a terrible player overnight. He's got ability there. There's a reason he was on the books at Chelsea, and there was a reason he was studied as the next star boy from Chelsea. So I think there's a player in there for sure, and if he can carry on that form from the weekend, then he could maybe cause us a few problems.
Where do you see like that the key battle happening on Saturday and the game playing out in kind of I don't
I
know
think,
now what my wording is, to be fair.
yeah, no, I know what you mean. I think I see a lot of battles with both wingers and both fullbacks from both sides, really. I think a lot of people talk about whether the battle is won in the middle of the park, but I think there will be a lot of very good duels from Hudson-Odoi against Hinshelwood or Matoma against whoever your right back is. So yeah, I look forward to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think what worries me from Forest for a Brighton point of view is the depth you've got out wide. I mean, Matoma, Minter, and then you've got a Dingru you can bring off the bench, and you might have to remind me of the other one, but I'm pretty sure you've just stacked like with wingers. Like, it's really annoying, but
Yeah,
excited for you guys. But yeah, I think that is quite an interesting battle. Actually, I think Brighton and Forest are quite similar in terms of like we like to get the ball out to our wide men, and I think that's kind of a theme within the Premier League, isn't it? Like a lot of it's all Guardiola's fault. Like, he's just created wingers and become monsters where they score 20 to 30 goals a season rather than your centre forward anymore. Boring.
Well, and then he brought in Erling Haaland.
yeah, and then made it more boring because he's just a machine, isn't he?
Exactly.
Do you? I suppose you kind of see it out as how it's gone in the first few games for yourselves at the Amex, where you're going to have probably a lot of the ball, I guess. And I think I expect us to be on the counter again, but I've got this thing in my head where Nuno will reinstate Callum Hudson-Odoi and Anthony Elanga to the starting lineup and kind of think, well, we can probably go at Brighton a little bit more. I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, there's definitely space to be had on both of our wings. As I say, our fullbacks push high. We like to overlap at the moment. If Kadioglu plays, he was doing all sorts of inverted runs, overlapping runs when he came on, only for 20 minutes against Ipswich. So yeah, as I say, if you can hit us on the counter and hit us in the wide areas, I think you'll have some success. Obviously, we hope to control the game. We hope to have a lot of the ball. We hope to use that possession wisely and hopefully score a few goals. But we know that's not always possible, and it's not going to be the easiest game at all, especially with the confidence that you're going to have coming off the back of beating Liverpool at Anfield, with the momentum they were on as well. What did they have? 3 from 3. Loving life under their new manager, and you spoiled the party. So I don't see any reason why you couldn't do the same at the Amex.
Yeah, it was unbelievable, Joe. I mean, I saw a child cry on the M1 going home, and I laughed and didn't feel bad at all for it. Just thinking, like, you've won everything in your lifetime, and I'm so glad you're upset. It was just funny. How do you expect to see yourselves line up on Sunday? Do you expect any changes, any injury issues, or players coming back in? Obviously, Joao Pedro will probably be the main one, hopefully back for Sunday for yourselves. Obviously, I'm kind of half hoping he's not, but like, you want to see the best players, to be fair.
Yeah, 100%. Depends how we come through the Wolves game on Wednesday. We've got Wolves in the Cup, so hopefully we can come through that with a clean bill of health. To be honest, I don't really care about the result. I just don't want any more injuries. Having said that, I am going to the game. Make that make sense. So yeah, I expect us to line up with Bart Verbruggen in goal, a back 4 of Hinshelwood, Van Hecke, Dunk, and Kadioglu. Midfield 2 of Yari and Baliba. Ahead of them, I would expect Minter, Mitoma, and hopefully Joao Pedro. Hopefully he can come back and his knock wasn't too bad. And then leading the attack would be Danny Welbeck, who I absolutely love that man.
So underrated, Welbeck.
A lot of Brighton fans are like, oh, he's washed, he's too old, he can't do it anymore. By the way, I don't know if you play FC 24 or 25, but have you seen Danny Welbeck's pace has been reduced from 74 to 54?
What?
It's a disgrace.
That's a ridiculous downgrade. He's still very quick.
I am cancelling my pre-order as we speak.
I don't blame you. I just want to get it back for clubs, to be honest. That's where the main game is. That is actually ridiculous because Danny Welbeck is definitely not that slow. I mean, even Chris Wood is slow, and he's not. I mean, I bet he's not. He must be like 23. Chris Wood on that bloody game. Like, do you know what I mean? Like running through treacle or something. But no, that sounds like a terrifying lineup, especially out wide. I fear Matoma especially more than I've never seen Minter play, so Matoma definitely worries me. Score prediction.
It's a tough one. I mean, the feeling is a little bit less confident after drawing 0-0 to Ipswich. By the way, I saw Ed Sheeran on Saturday, which was crazy. Mr. Sponsor himself. So yeah, that was weird. I'm not overly confident, but I've promised myself this season when I go on opposition fans podcasts to only go with my heart, and my heart says 3-1 Brighton. My head says something very different, which I will not disclose to you.
Joe, I did want to ask this actually because it's an interesting topic. I think when Forest obviously get this result against Liverpool. Wow, God, I've got Luton.
Where did that come from?
I've got Luton on the mind, right? Liverpool. Do fans get do you in your group text or in like maybe the podcast group that you go Forest won at Liverpool? Like we kind of like need to kind of be actually on our game to beat them. Does that actually happen or not really? I don't know.
100%. Yeah, definitely happens. As soon as I saw that result, I was like, Forest have beaten Liverpool. And then I had that sudden moment of realization of, shit, they've just beaten Liverpool and they're playing us next weekend. I mean, Brighton fans are really realistic fans. We're not deluded. We know that every game is a tough game in the Premier League, and that old cliche, you can't beat everyone. But we know that more than anyone. On your day, you could easily beat us, and if you play the way you did against Liverpool, and take your chance when it arises. Ipswich had their chance. They hit the post. They could have easily won that game 1-0. So there's no reason why Forest can't do that. So yeah, there is a little bit of anxiety amongst the Albion ranks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping it's kind of similar in terms of Forest fan base, that like people's feet are firmly on the ground. Like went and beat Liverpool, yes, but that doesn't mean you're going to go and beat every single team in this league. It's just not realistic at all. I'm still happy if we finish like 13th or 14th, 15th in the league. Do you know what I mean? And we've had a fantastic start to the season, and Nuno is like well earned the respect of the fan base now. But yeah, I'm still happy with a mid-table finish, and I'm sat here, we're unbeaten both our sides. It's great. But Joe, thank you very much for coming on. Obviously, if everyone wants to check out Albion Obsessed, I'm sure you're all over every single platform. I'm assuming.
Yeah, so we are across all platforms, just using @Albion Obsessed. I'm not sure if I spoke to you since we done our documentary, but if you want to, we done a documentary about the Withdean Stadium, which was our old home.
Yes, I think lots of people know about it.
13 years ago, sorry, we moved out of there. They gave us access all areas. We got to go in the old dressing room. We got to walk on the pitch. We got to sit where our old hosts used to sit. And it was just a great day to reminisce about harder times and a few of our sort of modern day roots. So yeah, if you want to go and check that out, it's called Our Withdean Years, presented by Albion Obsessed. And we also spoke to Fatboy Slim, so
mint.
go check it out.
Everyone loves a bit of a cookie, obviously.
Absolutely.
Brill. Thank you very much, Joe. Well, so if anyone's enjoyed it, go over, check out Albion Obsessed, hear what they're going to say about our lot, whether they're going to slag us off or not. I'm sure they won't. If you've enjoyed it,
I spoke to this guy called Adam, and oh my god,
drop us a like, subscribe for more. We'll see you in the next one. Come on, you Reds.